So I asked Mac the other day to watch a documentary. A number of years ago, in my own motivational stuff, I did a series on Mr. Rogers and the meaning of success. And so I wanted Mac to watch this documentary because I feel like we're in the same place.
Damn. Yeah, man.
Socially, that Mr. Rogers was in.
Yep.
In the 1960s.
I mean, talk about the parallels, you know, in the late, you know, because when he got started with the project that he's most famous for, that was late 60s.
Right.
You know, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And those were tumultuous times.
Yeah.
There was massive racial division. There was war. There was political conflict.
Assassination.
He
did an episode on assassination.
Yeah. So now we have basically the same thing going on. But what I see now, to me, it's...
Oh, it makes that look like kindergarten.
Yep.
And that's the thing, is when he came about, you have to also consider that what was changing, women were starting to leave the home for the workplace. And then TV itself was growing. Yeah,
it wasn't necessarily in its infancy. We're at a point now, you know, late 60s, where most people had a TV in their home.
Right.
You know, it wasn't like the 50s where, you know, every other family would have
so
one.
Kids are getting a lot of input from a screen.
Right, from a screen.
And it's new in the American experience. So it's becoming the new babysitter.
Yep.
And so a lot of kids and so he would look at all the stuff that was coming across TV at that time, which we consider innocent.
Yep.
And he said, this is not good for kids. You're not dealing with their fears, with their questions about all of this craziness happening in the world. And again, like we just said, jump to today and screens. There's screens everywhere.
Ugh.
They have their own screens.
Now it's sickening now. You know, back then, I think the big difference was because you and I can remember as far back as the 60s.
Yeah, me too.
Born in 65. I can remember late 60s. One TV in the house, and it wasn't on all the time. But when it was on, we were pretty much all in the living room.
Yeah.
So we all got a dose of the news,
right?
You know, or a sports game that was on. We all got doses of it, and we really didn't understand it, except, you know, we digested what we could out of our parents discussing current events.
Right.
And in a lot of cases, they disagreed. My parents disagreed with a bunch of stuff that was on the news.
Yeah.
And sometimes it would get like, you know, loud, you know, vociferous. Now, Jesus, man,
they're exposed to so much.
It's unfreaking believable, and it's sickening. Parents they've gotten permission to become lazy. You know, so hand your kid an electronic babysitter, and they're ubiquitous. Kids don't understand what even a photograph is. You show a kid a photograph, and I'm talking 2 or 3 years old, a photograph on a piece of paper. I've seen a 2-year-old swipe a piece of paper.
No kidding.
Swipe a piece of paper. It pains me deeply to see a child in a stroller with a tablet in hand or their parent's cell phone. Yeah. Or when they sit them down at the restaurant, they'll prop up a tablet so they can watch cartoons while they eat. So the kid is taking no input from the outside world. It's no longer necessary to use imagination, to be creative. Right. Kids nowadays, they're not bored. It's detrimental to kids that they don't have boredom, because with boredom comes creativity, imagination, things like that. So past, let's say, 2 decades, right? Kids were always with devices, always with a computer. Just a uber saturation of TV programming. And the TV programming is horrible. It's adolescent. There's no learning.
It's adolescent. It's perverse. And then you have even the commercials, which now everybody's under this political pressure to mix everything up.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So everything's constantly mixed. And so a child, the liturgy of life, the movement and the symbols of life that a child looks at now are so indistinct, because now you have so many pockets of things. Like for example, I don't have regular TV. But I'll see commercials like on like a Hulu app. They still have commercials, but those commercials are being done by companies who don't have the money to do mainstream TV commercials. So you're getting like ultra woke or whatever, and I mean, I'll see a commercial pop up while I'm watching, All in the Family, and I'm going, what in the hell?
Yeah. I don't know how a child can translate that because it's convoluted, the messaging. And like you said, it's so riddled with woke that it's confusing. Yeah. I gotta talk about this. Speaking of confusing, regardless of how many people may fall off or shut this podcast off right now, some of the things, like, so tumultuous times, right? Late 60s. Now, same thing. Yeah. Kids are being taught and coached and coerced into being afraid, angry, confused. Yeah. The confusion thing, kids at a young age are being taught to be sexually confused. Yeah. There's gender confusion. Yeah. How is that a thing?
Right.
Are you freaking kidding me? And then with the pandemic.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I still see parents in the grocery store with small children with masks on. Small children. And they're masking them and shoving a experimental vaccine into their arm against it's not a disease, it's a virus.
Yeah.
That can't harm them.
Yeah.
It can't harm them.
No.
And they're accepting it. I mean, I've seen 3-year-olds wearing a mask, and it's as if they were wearing a pair of shoes. Yeah. So they've been wearing it for a long time because it has no adverse effect on them whatsoever. As far as what they know, but it's going to. The long-term effects are going to be detrimental. I mean, facial recognition, breathing in their own filth, their speech patterns are going to be adversely affected because they can't read lips, they can't enunciate the right way. The big thing, too, is kids are supposed to get sick.
Yeah.
They're supposed to get sick.
Right.
They're supposed to fall down. Now they're all bubble wrapped.
Yeah, they're all bubble wrapped, yeah.
I feel for the youth of today, tomorrow.
Yeah.
I feel for them. And I want to be there for them. It's not their fault.
Right.
So parents are doing this to them. And I know it's only a select few, right? It's only a select few, but unfortunately, yes, that few is a pretty big number.
But there's also the crumbs that fall from the table. Right. So you still get the afterglow. You still get this stuff seeping through into everybody's home. And it's not like what we're suggesting is, hey, Mac, create some videos to reach these woke, whatever you want to call these kind of parents. It's really not that. It's really more reinforcing the value system that good families are already teaching their kids who talk about basic dude stuff in their homes. And so we're hoping that trickle effect is going to happen, and those families will be able to empower. And it's